A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This is the big story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you for joining us for our coverage for the 2023 general elections here in the Virgin Islands. My guest today is no stranger to us, Honorable Shireen Flax. Charles, thank you once again for being here to share with us the campaign trail that you're on this year for the elections.
Thank you, Kathy. It's always good to be on the big story.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. We want to make use of every minute that we have within this 25 to 30 minutes that we have available to us. How is the campaign trail going right now? We've seen it firing up.
Yes, it's firing up. It's very hectic, but I'm enjoying every minute of it, Kathy. I'm able to speak with people across the district, hear their concerns, and solving some problems as we go along as well.
Oh, tell me about that, solving some problems as you go along a campaign trail.
Well, I'll tell you, Kathy, it's very simple. It's something I've been doing for decades. And if someone comes to me and said, well, I had an application in for a taxi license or a trade license, and I'm not getting a response or there are conditions attached, how can you help me to facilitate some of this? And a lot of it is very simple, making a phone call, finding out what the needs are in terms of these departments. Up to yesterday, I was on the phone with the DMV, I was on the phone with the Trade Department and other departments, just trying to assist persons still, because the work does not stop.
For some people, we want to interpret this as trying to buy votes.
Oh, no, not at all, because that's my MO for decades, and I can tell you long before I was elected, that is what I was doing. Persons call me for every reason, and some of the same people who called me yesterday are persons that have called me on a regular basis. And that's one thing I can tell you, Kathy, buying votes is not a part of my campaign, because I believe that if I have to give you something in return for a vote, it is not worthy. You have to believe that I can get the job done, and I don't have to give you anything physical in return for a vote.
Okay. This second time around in a campaign trail, on the campaign trail, you were first in 2019 when you became a legislator under the Virgin Islands Party. This time around, you're coming up against one of the persons that are running for District 9, someone who you campaigned alongside in 2019. How are the dynamics working out there?
Well, Kathy, I'm fine. I don't have a challenge. I've played sports all my life, and a lot of people in the BVI may not be aware. I haven't been able to do anything in the last 4 years other than jump on my treadmill every morning. However, I look at it as I've switched teams, and I continue to work for the people. And it's just what it is, Kathy.
What are your people on the ground saying about Shireen having switched teams?
I think that people are quite happy. Quite happy. I believe, though, that persons on Tortola mainly have expressed to me that because I'm not running at large, they were a bit disappointed because they were ready wholesale to vote for me. But what I can assure the people of Tortola and Jos Van Dyke is that when elected as the 9th District Representative, I will be focusing on Virgin Gorda and Anegada, but the needs of the rest of the territory still have to be met, and I will do what I have to do to make sure that those needs are met.
Well, we would have heard in previous discourse that we would have had over time while you were on the other side of the aisles in the House of Assembly, the challenges that you faced, one as a woman and one as a backbencher, not having that deep voice in a cabinet setting, or in a more senior position where you can affect the change and affect the decisions that you think that you need to do. What are you hoping for when or if you get into government this time?
Well, Kathy, what I would say is that as a woman, we face many challenges, but women are fighters. Women will champion causes that they feel are dear to their heart and causes that can enact change in our communities. Now, as it relates to the backbencher situation, my opinion, and I've said it to you before, we need to change that system of government. There's no way that you should have 13 elected members and only 5 persons are able to vote on major issues. And at the end of the day, the majority out of 5 is 3. So you're looking at 10 persons not really having a say. For me, that is not a good system. And we must change that. And a lot of people were not even aware that that is how the system was until these things started to come out in discussions throughout social media. I spoke about it in the House as well. And so that has to change. Every single elected member needs to be able to have a voice. And if you have a government with even 9 people, you're still going to have 4 people on the back bench. How are they contributing to what needs to be done? The junior ministers, that has always been a stickler as well for the people, because people are asking, what are they doing? And this has been from the time that the junior minister positions came about. And so responsibility in the Constitution needs to be written. Those things need to be included there. It shouldn't be left up to whoever the premier is to decide if you're going to be able to have responsibilities or if they decide to sideline you. And that is one of my biggest challenges, is that these things are not in the Constitution, the roles and responsibilities of a junior minister. And so we need to fix that this time around. And it's something that I'm going to work tirelessly to rectify.
Awesome. You are still, until I think it's April 23, I think it is, you're still the Junior Minister for Trade and Economic Development. How is the balancing act in effect?
Well, I'll tell you, it's very hectic. However, I'm always in communication with the office. I pop in as needed, because still, Kathy, the roles and responsibilities are not clearly defined. There was some talk of additional responsibilities being given, but then they were pulled back. So, it is very difficult for us to be able to function when there's no set responsibility, and it is at the whim and the fancy of whoever sits in that seat. These things need to be included in that constitutional reform, so that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing before you get elected, that there's a possibility that you might be a junior minister. So this is your role. And I implore persons to understand, it's not about wanting power. It's about being able to have the autonomy to empower people. And persons come to me all the time, and I have to say to them, let me check here, let me check there. Let me go to this department or that department or this statutory body or that statutory body, because that situation is not set in stone, or it's not in writing. So there's a challenge there. And today you're able to do one thing, tomorrow you're not. And that's not good for us. We need consistency. And that's one of the things that I feel is a very positive trait that I have. It's about being consistent. And I know that you read my morning messages.
I do.
And persons have reached out and said, please don't stop those because it
Yes.
gets me going through the day. And I am very consistent in returning calls to persons who call me if I can't answer right away and see how I can help them in any way. If I can't, I will have to tell them so because there are certain things that are outside of the purview from where I sit.
So do you feel as though the title that you hold as a legislator is just one for title's sake and you're unable to really be that, perform that role that you were given that title for?
Based on the Constitution, there's no written roles and responsibilities. When I first got elected and I held the Junior Minister of Tourism post, you know, I was asking for a job description. This is a job. I work 16 hours a day literally or more, and it is a job. So you would think, here's the job description, you start to do what you need to do. And that is something that I've always felt is necessary across the board, that everything needs to be documented so that there are no blurred lines about what someone is supposed to be doing. Now, sometimes you do have to tweak those things as you go along. But I think it is imperative for us moving forward that we document, we have standard operating procedures within every department and statutory body, and some do, but there are some that don't, and that needs to be rectified.
Do you think that your voice was being heard when you speak in the House of Assembly?
I think the public heard me. The public heard me. The public knows what I stand for. The public is aware that I am a voice for them. And so that is what is more important to me, is that they know that I am always defending them. I am always fighting for the public every single minute of the day. Whether I'm in the House of Assembly or whether I'm on the street somewhere, whether I'm on the ferry or on a plane going somewhere, I always speak up for the people, and my voice has been heard.
Okay. Something was going through my mind there as you were saying that, but I'll leave that part.
Yes. Yes, you leave that alone because I think I summarized that quite well on Sunday night. And,
Yeah.
you know, my focus really now is on getting District 9 to where it needs to be, because I will say to you, we have an action plan. The PVIM and I, we have an action plan for the 9th district, and we're going to hit the ground running on day one to ensure that these things are done in the district, that people are empowered to move the district forward. Because I'll say this, when Virgin Gorda sneezes, Anegada catches a cold, or Jasper died Tortola. So we all have to ensure that all of the islands are being worked on simultaneously so that we can have an efficient community of islands. And Kathy, the people of the 9th district understand what needs to be done, what has to be done. And for the Progressive Virgin Islands movement, we use a business plan and not a manifesto. And with anyone knowing a business plan, there are phases that you run this business through to get the ultimate results. And that's what we're working towards.
Where is the issue of ports in that business plan for Virgin Gorda and Anegada in particular?
Ports needs a whole revamp, renovation, development. Kathy, I can tell you that when it comes to the ports, I go to Anegada once a week, and that has been for the last 20 3+ years. I visit the port in Virgin Gorda, and of course I had to go to the port to come to you today. And our ports need a lot of attention, and we must give them that attention, because that's one of the first things. Well, literally it is the first when you hop off of that boat, if you're coming from St. Thomas or another foreign country. That's the first thing our visitors see when they get there, before they get to immigration and customs. And the aesthetics are not pleasing to the eye, and those things need to be sorted out. While there are international standards that must be met as it relates to security, we must fix those things. And Agada, first of all, and this is something that I fought for a long time. I kept reminding persons in the positions, and Agada needs to be a port of entry. That seaport must become a port of entry. And the international standards, that has to flow with that as well. So we need that, because that is the gateway into these two islands. And some money will have to be spent on that. And some persons have said to me, the $2 million that ports used to purchase that building in Virgin Gorda, that $2 million would have been better served renovating and fixing the port in Virgin Gorda as a priority. Yes, there are issues with cargo and passengers in the same area. However, if it's well managed, it can work. I'm not saying that we don't need to separate them, but in this instance, it's going to take quite a bit of funding. And I would venture, I'm not an architect and a port developer, but in my mind, I'm seeing $30 to $50 million having to be spent to do what needs to be done there, without having seen any type of a plan or drawing or anything. So it would have been better served there. If persons are waiting on the ferry and under the tent is filled, persons have to stand in the rain or in the sun still. And Virgin Gorda is a very, very busy port. Parking is a challenge as well. And so the parking situation in both islands at the seaports needs to be addressed.
During your campaign in 2019, be it as Shireen Flax-Charles or be it as Shireen Flax-Charles with the Virgin Islands Party, it was one of the things that you guys campaigned on. It's one thing that you would have given the people of the territory your assurance that it will form a priority when you get into government. Now, you would have been in government under two administrations, that of Andrew A. Foy and that of the unity government. What was the priority? How was this being attended to? Was it a major focus within the structure?
This is ports you're speaking
Ports
about.
I'm speaking of.
Well, Cathy, of course there was COVID, and I don't want to use COVID as an excuse. I made it my priority, and I made my voice very loud and clear about what needs to be done at the ports. And I would go a step further to include the airports as well. But I don't want to dwell in the past, because the past is the past. And with a progressive Virgin Islands movement government, we intend to see that all of these seaports and airports are up to the standard of what we market ourselves as a luxury destination. And so moving forward, we know we have a lot of infrastructural development to do. We know that we're going to need to probably borrow money there, but I'll tell you, Cathy, there are loads of investors just waiting for the progressive Virgin Islands movement government to be elected. Investors are waiting in the wings. There's no shortage of investors. We went through a very rough period since April the 28th, and that the investors, and if you had funding and you were multi-million or multi-billion dollar investor, you would want to wait and see what was happening after April the 28th. The BVI needs to progress. The BVI needs to invest. The BVI needs to develop, and we have to empower to our young people. And it's going to take some investment. And a lot of persons who are interested in investing, we have said to them, when you're investing, if you're coming in with a hotel or whatever you are interested in investing in, even if it's agriculture, one of the priorities is that the youth must be involved every step of the way. And none of us will live forever, but we have to prepare our young people, put them in a position so that they are now able to continue what we have started and keep it in a positive vein. And so investors might come and go, but when they come to the BVI with a PVIM government, that will be the understanding that we need to train our young people. We need to ensure that they are knowledgeable in every area. And food sustainability and food security is so important now. I remember years ago, there was a breakdown with one of the major shipping companies into the BVI. And that ship had all the food that was coming to the BVI. And everybody was scrambling, running to chartering planes to St. Martin, chartering boats to St. Thomas, even just for the restaurants to get supplies. And so we need to change course and make a priority. It can't be just about talk. It has to be done. Now you have the hydroponic farming. We need to, there are a few people doing it, but we need to expand on that. You can grow 6,000 heads of lettuce, 6,000 in about 37 to 45 days. I think that's what a farmer told me yesterday. I didn't get to do that research, so I depend on that farmer to know what he's saying. And that way, we're able to, it needs to be continuous. But you can't just get one container, you need several. And so that's a way where we're marrying the traditional farming with technology and modern day farming. Of course, there are certain crops that we can't grow with that. But let's balance it and let's get our young people more involved in these industries. Young people too have to understand that you have to be willing to be trained. You have to be willing to walk, and we will walk with you. And I've met a lot of young people in the last 4 years that I would not have met if I wasn't elected. And let me tell you, our young people are real. Our young people are intelligent. They're efficient. They're competent. They just need to be given an opportunity to progress.
Well, what we're seeing and hearing from the very young people, intelligent and wanting opportunities, they're saying in this season, we are fed up. All we've been getting is talk, talk, talk. So are you go continue talk, 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 and we, and we're not going to the polls. And that's what we are hearing on the ground. Persons are fed up of hearing aspirants of the House of Assembly, because I know you don't like the politician name, but persons who are aspiring to get into the House of Assembly, we accustomed to every season you come knock at our doors and it's the talk and the promise, the talk and the promise, and it happens all the time. You would have said, oh, let's not look at what has happened in the past, but it sounds kind of unfair to not to look at what has happened in the past in order to give an assurance to this group of people who are saying, yes, I'm eligible to vote, but to age with it.
In that context, Yes, I understand that. And you know, I always stand to be corrected in that particular context. I do understand because I hear that. And persons are saying, we know that you have tried. We've seen your documentation when we reach out to you, whether it's a trade license taking a long time, or we're not seeing enough boats in the harbor, or all of these issues. But I would implore the young people, go out and vote, because that one vote might mean the difference of you, of someone getting elected who will be there to help you, who will be there to give you an opportunity. And so staying at home should not be an option. Our society, though, has become one of handouts. A society where persons expect elected members to pass them $100 and those sort of things. We want to see everyone in our community being able to work for what they want, being able to demand a higher pay because they're qualified. And a lot of our young people have put in the work. A lot of young people, they've gotten government scholarships. And when they come home, it's difficult to get a job, even with government. Why is that so? And so there must be succession planning as well within the government structure as well as in the private sector. Because why do we send somebody away to study hospitality and hotel management and they cannot move up through the ranks? Now you have to remember, I might come home with a bachelor's degree, but I need to, how the hotel and tourism industry works, you need to move your way through the ranks. I read an article recently about a young lady in St. Kitts who worked at the Marriott, and she started as a maid, and she is now the housekeeping director, not at the Marriott in St. Kitts, Lord, I'm getting goosebumps, but at a Marriott in one of their hotels somewhere across the world. And this is what we want to see for our young people. Yes, we need to keep some of them here, but we also need them to get that experience overseas, because I can almost bet you that in the next couple of years, that lady will be back in St. Kitts as the managing director of that Marriott there. And that's what we need to see here in the BVI as well.
Okay, Honorable Flax Charles, the clock is done.
I know.
Is done on us. And some people say sometimes you need to carry it to an hour, but allow you. We think that we should allow you to absorb what was said within the half-hour slot, and really try to reach out to legislators and persons to further follow up on what would have been said there, because you don't want it to be all a talk game. But in this moment, 30 seconds for you and your audience.
Well, what I would say, I also wanted to touch on the lands issue of persons acquiring land or home. We have a solid plan. We already have developers that we've been speaking to create a system that is equitable and where literally hundreds of persons working with the banks as well as the local contractors, so that we can provide real affordable housing for persons in the community. We're going to be able to fit 8 homes that would run from a 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom and an acre. And this is important, Kathy, that all young people and others who have applied for land literally from 1970, 1980 and up. I have seen a file of a young lady that is more than 2 inches thick with all of the letters that she has submitted over the years. We have to stop that foolishness. Let's put a real criteria in place, and I'm working with the president of the Anegada Lands Committee, or chairman as he calls himself, to work closely with us so that we can make sure that this plan of action comes to fruition. Because Housing is important for persons, and I did a survey. Most persons are paying $800 to $1,000 a month in rent on Virgin Gorda on the average, and so, and the guardians too need to get their stuff sorted out instead of paying to a landlord. And you would always have that somebody comes out of an apartment, somebody moves in. Virgin Islanders need to own their little piece of the rock, and we are prepared, and it will become a reality with a progressive Virgin Islands movement government. And I thank you so much, Kathy, for having me.
I thank you, and I know the voting population and those who cannot vote but depend on what you do in government are going to be looking, should you and your party get into office following the 24th general elections here in the territory. Again, from us here, congratulations on your big step that you would have taken to go at it again, despite the challenges that you would have faced, and we can only wish you the best.
Thank you so much. There's lots of work to be done, and we pledge as a progressive Virgin Islands movement government to do the work for the people and only for the people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time up to be here with us on The Big Story General Election, the 2023 coverage.